Seated on the dais with me, Secretary Steel, Nagendranath Sinha Sahib, my colleague in Parliament, a very old association over the last 2 decades in public life, फग्गन सिंह जी के साथ जो एक साझेदारी रही है 20 वर्षों की, हमारे राज्य मंत्री फग्गन सिंह कुलस्ते साहब, हमारे दोनों एडिशनल सेक्रेटरीज रुचिका जी, सुकृति जी, and members of this august audience present here today. Today is a historic day. Today is a seminal day, not only for the Indian steel industry in particular, but for the country as a whole. Our Minister of State, Faggan Singh ji, very articulately talked about India's evolution in the last 9 years. Evolution as a global power, from the 11th largest economy to the 5th largest economy in a period of 9 years. And this journey, due to your efforts, due to the Prime Minister's vision, the Prime Minister's resolve, due to the efforts of 130 crore Indians across the length and breadth of our country. This journey is going to be a continual one. The World Bank and the IMF have projected that India, as she stands today as the 5th largest economy, will emerge as the 3rd largest economy by the year 2030. We have left behind us the vestiges of the past. We have left behind us the United Kingdom. And during the journey that we will traverse over the next 7 years under the leadership of our Prime Minister, we hope and we will overtake Japan and Germany to become the 3rd largest economic power in the world. That determination and that resolve is seminal to the Prime Minister's commitment towards the nation, commitment towards Bharat Mata, commitment towards every citizen across our country. But that goal will be achieved when all of us across the length and breadth of our country come together as one, contributing to the concept of nationhood, अपना अपना योगदान, चाहे जिस तरीके का भी हो, जिस क्षेत्र में भी हो, अपने अपने क्षमता के आधार पर, ताकि भारत माता और भारत देश को विश्व पटल पर उजागर करने के संकल्प को हमें साकार करना होगा. And that vision and that resolve goes beyond, is greater than any one of us, is greater than any one of our companies. And if we are to achieve that vision, look back in history over the last 200 years, 300 years across the globe, And any country across the world that has become an economic power to be reckoned with, the foundational basis of that has been infrastructure. The foundational basis of that has been the steel industry. And today it gives me a great moment of pride, both for me and for Phaggan Singh ji, that today we are fellow travelers in that journey with you. In our role no longer as regulators, but in our role as facilitators. Because in your success lies our success, and in our combined success lies the country's success. And over the last 9 years, the steel industry has done a stellar contribution towards that goal of the Prime Minister. Our production capacities have gone up by 50%. Our actual production levels have gone up from 80 million tons to 120 million tons. Our per capita consumption of steel has gone up by 50%, from 50 kilos per person to almost 77. Last year has gone up by 10% alone. But as the famous adage or poem goes, the woods are far and deep and we have miles to go before we sleep. We have moved from the 4th largest producer of steel to becoming the 2nd largest producer of steel. And all of this, mind you, in a period of tremendous churn in the global environment. Churn that the world has not seen in the last 100 years. So I congratulate each and every one of you. I salute each and every one of you for the growth and contribution that you have made. The world has seen a structural shift in production, in consumption. And that structural shift in the last 9 years has moved from the West towards the East, towards Asia. And in that structural shift of production, in that structural shift of consumption, India very clearly has become the epicenter of growth for the future of the steel industry. The World Steel Association has predicted that India will play a seminal role in the next decade and 2 decades with regard to the evolution and growth of steel, new ways of producing steel, becoming much more carbon neutral. And I see many of our companies forging ahead on those strategies. Our production levels have increased tremendously. And that in part to the great emphasis given by government, which was never done before, towards capex of government projects. In this budget alone, the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister have announced a 10 lakh crore capex plan. Now that becomes the source of great demand for our industry. That becomes the precursor of establishment of greater capacity, greater diversification. And even in this environment of great churn, where on a global basis you've seen recession and a decrease of 4.2% in terms of production across the world, our finished steel production has risen by 6% in the last 1 year. We're going to achieve a new record of 125 MTPA this year. That is on the production side. Now, if you look at the consumption side, consumption has exponentially grown. Consumption that has grown at a CAGR of roughly 5 to 6% over the last decade, last year has grown by almost 12%. And therefore, that provides the basis and the avenue for growth for our steel industry. But that growth must come from visionary leadership. And that visionary leadership is in the hands of our Prime Minister, who during the period of COVID, when across the world walls were being raised up by each country, the Prime Minister, as opposed to looking inwards, looked outwards and said, this is the time for us to move on the path of Atmanirbharta, self-reliance as a country. And across many platforms, across many sectors, evolved a new strategy for India, where India in the years to come under his leadership will become the manufacturing powerhouse of the world. Our economy has traditionally been a services-led economy. But if you go back in India's history over the last 1,000 years, 2,000 years, we were primarily a manufacturing economy. We contributed 25% of the world's GDP. And it is in these troubled times that today's baby was conceived. Today's child was conceived. The productivity-linked incentive scheme was conceived. And we started with 3 sectors. But very soon, in the month of November of 2020, the PLI scheme for the steel sector, for specialty steel, was born. And I must congratulate all of you, because within a period of 6 months, very deep consultations were held by members of this ministry, by many members sitting here today, to architect this scheme, to look at value addition, to look at diversification. And in July of 2021, the PLI scheme for specialty steel, with an outlay of 6,322 crores, was approved by the Government of India to give a new impetus to our steel sector. And it is from that point that we have embarked to our journey today. Our sector, as I said, plays a very, very crucial role. And within our sector, this PLI scheme is extremely important. Because as producers, it's very important for you to also understand market dynamics, how demand is diversifying, how value addition in product portfolio is becoming extremely important. And it's not good enough for us to just produce crude steel or finished steel. It is important for us to value add and produce that specialty steel that goes downstream for economic production, that will increase individually and finally our country's GDP. It's also very important for us in this great churn as our industry is evolving to look at the change that is coming within our industry. Change is the only constant in the world. And we must be always ready to face that change, adapt that change, and the right word that I was looking for is embrace that change. And that change is coming to our sector. There will come a time in our lifetimes when steel production will no longer be done from coking coal and iron ore. We must prepare ourselves for that time. Today, we are known as one of the hard-to-abate sectors with a 12% contribution to carbon emissions. We must move from a hard-to-abate sector to a low-carbon emission sector. We must look at carbon neutrality through new areas, such as green steel. The very fact that we have today, again, a visionary step by the Prime Minister, a green hydrogen mission that has been released by the Government of India with a corpus of 19,000 crores. I would urge our manufacturers present here today to look at green hydrogen as an option. It's still a technology that is emerging, but we must evaluate that. We must look at the circular economy. Our ministry is putting in place the architecture for that, with state governments, with MoU, to make sure that our 9 lakh or a couple of crore vehicles that are lying in states, we use that as scrap for the production of steel. We are already using 25 million tons of scrap in India, importing roughly about 5 to 6 million tons, contributing almost 22.5% of our production. But that must become a perennial source of steel production in the days to come. It suffices to say that we are very confident that with your ingenuity, with your entrepreneurial capability, with your forward-thinking attitude, India will emerge as one of not only the steel giants that it already is, but one of the largest economies in the world in the days to come through your technological and entrepreneurial prowess. In particular, with this PLI, we've had today 27 companies with 57 MoUs, almost close to 30,000 crores in terms of capex being planned, close to about 25 million tons of additional capacity, and almost a creation of close to 55,000 employment opportunities, all contributing to India's commitment to becoming a $5 trillion economy in the next couple of years. Now, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Government has come forward. You have come forward. We have committed to work with each other. And now we must see execution. This PLI scheme is looked at 5 product categories: coated plated steel products, high strength, wear resistant steel, specialty rails, alloy steel products, and steel wires and electrical steel. Now, there are a wide range of applications for these products, all the way from automobiles to renewals to infrastructure to white goods. And there's a tremendous market for this. And as we analyze the demand, as Secretary Saab was also saying, we're already looking at demand increasing for these specialty steels. Almost 64%, as he mentioned, of the specialty steel basket today is imported. That production by yourselves will saturate that demand and also reduce imports. Now, in order to facilitate this program, we've put together a portal called Prayas, where each project will be monitored. As partners in that progress, I'd like all of you to submit your PERT charts with respect to your production facilities, so that therefore we can make sure that your clearances, state government, central government clearances, are facilitated at the earliest. We're able to monitor together our combined progress, make sure that if there are any bottlenecks, those bottlenecks are eased at the earliest, kindly escalate any bottlenecks that you have, because it is our job to make sure that we facilitate you. Today is a very, very important day in the steel industry's history and its future. But PLI 1.0 is not a full stop. PLI 1.0 is the beginning of a journey. Our ministry is already looking at PLI 2.0. And so we would like your support, your suggestions, your feedback, and it's an open invitation to all of you. Kindly contribute so that, like we have architected PLI 1.0 together, I would like us to architect PLI 2.0 together as well, so that it's something that's facilitatory to our industry. It's something that augurs well for our industry in the days to come. And on this day, I'd like to congratulate and wish all the very best to all our 27 companies, and chart your future individually and collaboratively. Chart the future of your industry, and together chart the future of an emerging, self-reliant, Atmanirbhar Bharat as envisioned by our beloved Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Thank you very much for having me.